All right. Welcome everybody to the 14th surf session here with Annie Davis today, the CMO of Jetty Extracts. Annie, thank you so much for being here today. I'm Travis Skadron. I'm the SVP of Business Development at Surfside, and we're really excited to get into it today. Annie, before we get started, is there anything you wanted to say?
Well, no, just thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. Surfside was one of the first cannabis marketing platforms that I was introduced to or got exposed to back in 2020 when I was doing some work with Cannacraft, a California house of brands, and a fairly robust marketing team. And that's only 5 years ago, but it feels like decades in cannabis years. And I'm just kind of reminiscing about some of the colleagues that I worked with there and thinking about where they are now. But we're still here. So Surfside's still here, and cannabis is still here. So excited to chat.
Yeah, we made it. I remember back when you were at Flow. I think you went to Flowcana from there, and we worked together for a little while there. So it's been a fun and wild ride. But really happy to see you at Jetty today. Just going back a little bit to where things started for you. You did your education in Boston in the early 2000s. You attended both Yale and then did your MBA at Harvard, and have had a very amazing career since then. One of the first things that we were wondering about is how do you think the very academic and institutional beginnings have affected or impacted your approach to the cannabis space, like corporate versus cannabis now?
Yeah, well, very much so. And just way back, just thinking about kind of my connection to cannabis, it was two of my, classmates at Yale, freshman year, that were stoners, and we started watching Friends and Survivor on Thursday nights, and there was Thursday night Pizza Pot Friends, PPP. And that is kind of how I got introduced to cannabis. It was through those two classmates. So it started in the halls of Ivy League University. And I actually, my career started actually in the nonprofit sector. I worked for nonprofit organizations right after undergrad, before I went to business school. And I went to business school to really learn the language of finance, language of business, to help raise money for effective nonprofit organizations. And it was when I was in business school, kind of taking marketing 101, that I realized that, fundraising for nonprofits, which is like selling an organization to donors or to funders, just like raising money from investors, was marketing. You were marketing the organization to funders. And I started to get really interested and fascinated by kind of the fundamentals of marketing, and how really strong brand building and marketing campaigns all revolve around a clear and deep understanding of consumers, or the customer behavior, the customer need, and what is that unmet need. And just kind of from an academic standpoint, and relevant to cannabis, I took a class in business school with a professor named Clay Christensen, who is the author of a book called The Innovator's Dilemma. And his kind of framework for thinking about marketing products and services is really thinking about what is the job to be done by this product or service. So when I go to consume cannabis, as a consumer, what is the job that I am hiring cannabis to do for me? Am I hiring cannabis to help me relax? Am I hiring cannabis to help me sleep? Am I hiring cannabis to increase my appetite? And so, I came to the industry with some kind of strong business fundamentals and marketing fundamentals. And I had, after business school, gone into consumer packaged goods marketing at the Clorox company. And then I worked for renewable energy companies, solar, biofuels, kind of in natural products, and applying this framework, helping to help shift consumers along a spectrum to purchasing more environmentally sustainable or socially responsible products and services, through really understanding what is that job the consumer is hiring that product or service to do. And so this really translated into cannabis for me, and I think it's still a huge opportunity for cannabis marketers to really, really deeply understand are the consumer like psychographics. How are people thinking about like their purchases, not just in terms of like what is the brand or product that I'm buying, but what is the role that I'm seeking for that brand or that product to play in my life. I transitioned my career into cannabis in 2018. Precisely so that I could hopefully bring these like frameworks of corporate brand, right, kind of corporate marketing, strong kind of brand building fundamentals to this emerging industry. But also because I had this like hope and belief that we could build cannabis businesses in a way where they were more environmentally sustainable and more kind of like socially responsible from the start. And I wanted to be part of connecting like the legacy and the history of cannabis culture to like the evolution of how it was going to be developing in a more kind of formal traditional CPG way. There's a lot of like anecdotes and stories kind of from the past, and there's so many different kind of pieces to touch on. But I think at the end of the day, like cannabis products are a consumer good, just like anything that you would buy in a grocery store or a convenience store or you're buying online. But really deeply understanding how the role that cannabis plays in people's lives is part of what makes cannabis brands and cannabis marketers successful in their roles and their jobs.
Yeah, I think the way that you approach marketing is like exactly the way that people describe how marketers should approach it. And that's as if it's a business development arm of the business. Like it's how do we create the right market fit and then use it to sell and reach customers in the right way. And I also did my MBA and focused on cannabis during my MBA, wrote my master's thesis on it, and could say a lot about that. But one of the things when focusing on marketing for my MBA as well, that was trending really hard was that a larger and larger percentage of CEOs are coming from a marketing background, right? And that's because if you don't understand the way that your product serves the end user, then how are you going to lead the organization successfully and make the right financial decisions, the right hires, everything, the entire business strategy needs to be aligned to how you're actually going to sell this thing. And then also how you represent the brand and live the values of the brand as the CEO. You basically are the brand, right? And so more and more often people with marketing and brand backgrounds are becoming that person. So it sounds like, you really embody that mindset.
Yeah, and I would say like another just like experience that has been useful in my cannabis marketing journey has been the fact that I had a combination of brand marketing, kind of traditional CPG brand experience, but I also then when I went into the world of clean tech and renewable energy, I worked on channel marketing, which is parallels to field marketing, which is about enabling your customers to help you sell the product. So I worked for a solar panel manufacturer, and it was my job to work with like roofing contractors to help them explain to homeowners the benefits and value of solar. So that's really similar in cannabis to being a brand that now has to work through dispensaries and bud tenders and arm and equip those people to be evangelists and brand builders for you. And any kind of business that works through distribution, where you have like multiple layers, where you oftentimes are not directly communicating with your end customer, but you have to feed that information through a variety of channels to people who may or may not actually say the right thing to your end customer. And so I think for me, this combination has been really important. And in my role at Jetty, I oversee a team that includes brand marketing, creative, and also field marketing. And a real driver of Jetty's success has been the strength of our field organization, like our boots on the ground and our ability to work with our retail partners to get our message out into the world.
Yeah, that's great. I think cannabis really straddles that line between being, having its like black market roots or its less kind of mainstream roots and needing all that field market and in-person contact and that trust that's created in a face-to-face interaction. But then it has so much potential on the digital side because everyone's now purchasing digitally, everyone's shifting to e-commerce. It's really because it's such a new and nascent industry. We have both we have the opportunity to play in both realms, whereas most other industries, you're kind of like picking one or the other. I feel like cannabis is one where you really have to play in both. You cannot pick one or the other in order to see success. Or really just like retail generally, but cannabis even more so because of the historic nature of like wanting to have human connection as a result of the plant, I would say. So now that we started to touch on this, but now that you're leading marketing at Jetty Extracts, where you specialize in producing really high quality concentrates and extracts, and anyone from like more like mature markets would know exactly who Jetty is. I can vouch for the quality of your solvent list. I've been buying it in California and San Francisco for years and years. They used to have little wooden tips, I remember.
Still do.
Now
Still do.
Yeah. You still do? We don't have now that they're hitting New York and New Jersey, I can start buying them again, which is what I was getting to. Can you take us through like some of the differences between like these more like old school markets and then these newer markets that you're entering into and the different challenges that you're seeing between the two?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so I've worked for a number of cannabis brands and cannabis companies over the last 7 or so years in this industry. And Jetty has taken a very focused and strategic approach to expansion, which I appreciate as a marketer with limited resources, budget, and headcount to expand and build a brand. I think there was a time when brands were really like kind of racing to like plant flags in as many states as possible. Maybe finding that it was hard, therefore, to then sustain growth in their markets as they were expanding. And I've worked for companies where I have felt that we have stretched ourselves too thin in terms of our ability to adequately support. So Jetty was born in California, 2013, and the brand still, like our bread and butter is the California market. About 3/4 of our overall revenue come from the state of California. So it is very much continues to be a focus for our company. We also are expanded a couple of years ago into Colorado and into New York and New Jersey. So within California, I think that, we're a well-known brand because we've been here for a long time. So the brand awareness is high and like the knowledge of who Jetty is in this market is high. That said, cannabis consumers continue to be very fickle in terms of brand loyalty and also driven by price and promotions. And you've got lots of noise from newcomers who may have, new rounds of investment. And so they can, undercut you on price. So in a more mature market like California, we are already on the shelf. So the goal is not necessarily to get us on the shelf in new dispensaries. The goal is to drive sell-through. And that's one of the reasons why, working with a platform like Surfside, where we can really focus our digital marketing efforts on key accounts and key retailers, it makes a lot of sense for us. We also can be demonstrating to some of our key accounts continued investment in those. But really it's our ground game in these more mature markets like California, Colorado. I would say it is our ground game where we are investing the bulk of our dollars, which is brand ambassadors, doing demos out in the community, and then connecting our in-store presence to whatever promotional activities we have or new product launches we have going on at that time. In a newer market for us, like New Jersey and New York, we are in a position where we may be a known brand in California, but nobody knows us in New York yet. And so we are in a position where we need to be building brand awareness. We need to be because we are known for solventless rosin, and that is a higher the highest quality oil on the market, but also like it takes some degree of education about cannabis oils, about how they are made, about how they are different, to really substantiate the price premium to pay for solventless. So we have a heavier lift in these growing markets around education. And I think an opportunity as well to really hone in on key accounts that can be our partners in education. So, for instance, I know one partner of ours in New York, travel agency, also has been a Surfside partner, really robust marketing team and organization within that retailer. And so a great partner in terms of both digital marketing and brand education. But we, one of the challenges is that building brand awareness is notoriously like a difficult thing to measure ROI on. And as a marketer in a resource constrained environment, I'm constantly having to prove to my boss and to other people in the organization as to like why we should continue to invest in kind of brand building opportunities. And so I think there's what's exciting and interesting about digital marketing and about working with a platform like Surfside is that we can invest in activities that are driving and building brand awareness, but we also can begin to measure attribution and begin to quantify what actually is the ROI on these activities. Which if you do something like out of home advertising or you're doing a ad in a print magazine, there is like no way to track what was the impact of those marketing dollars, or it's very, very challenging.
Yeah, that's really interesting. While you were talking about that, when I think about like the more mature markets and trying to push something as advanced or to me, like I only purchase live rosin these days, right? I only like anything that I'm consuming needs to be full spectrum because otherwise it's impacting me in a way that I don't like generally, right? If it's just THC. And so in the mature market, if you're like going into a place like, and I know you guys aren't in this state, but like Michigan, for example, where like just distillate has been such a big thing, it's really hard, and probably similar in California and Colorado as well, but it's really hard to take someone who's been buying a distillate cart for X amount of dollars and convince them to make that jump up to the higher percentage unless they are someone who's really well educated, right? And so that's why like I could see your campaigns in Colorado and California, like you're already on the menus, you just need to make sure that they're understanding like the differentiator in the premium
Yeah, I mean,
positioning of the product.
yeah.
Whereas, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, like, I mean, we, like many brands, like we invest heavily in sampling for our rosin. I mean, trying it is the way you convert people. So, bud tender sampling, robust sampling programs. We have found the form factor of our all-in-one device, which is our mini tank, has been really, really selling, like driving like even higher than expected revenue growth for the company. But I think there's the all-in-one device, even though it's maybe it's still 1 gram of oil. It's the same thing as buying a 1 gram cartridge, but the form factor itself has actually been a motivating factor for newcomers to the brand to try Jetty. And so we found finding people are actually trying one of the things that's sparking trial is actually the hardware and the device that our oil is in. And then that's getting people to try the rosin. And then they're continuing to come back for both the device and the rosin itself. But, and in New York, kind of similarly, we, invest heavily in bud tender education. We also are really active on like Reddit channels and like having conversations like with the headiest folks in the community that are influencers, and a lot of these bud tenders and like even like inventory managers and folks working, for instance, in like the New York retail dispensary environment. Are active on digital media. And so we as a brand are building relationships with them. I've got our New York brand manager is in Reddit on a daily basis conversing with, New York retail staff members about Jetty and just kind of like trying to, again, like get those bugs in their ears about the things that we are doing that are driving that rosin quality that hopefully then they go and sample it and then they're talking about it. But it is definitely a matter of like getting that rosin in people's hands, because once you try it, I'm similar to you, Travis. Like once I converted as a consumer myself to solventless rosin, like I can't go back. I only ever now will consume rosin. So
Yeah, no, that's what I was going to say about New York is that in New York, I feel like the opportunity is bigger for market capture up front because you can immediately prevent someone from going down the distillate path by getting rosin in their hands faster in the legal market in its early days, right? And that's what I was getting at as well.
yeah, and that's actually a good point that you make to say that you raised, Travis, because we at Jetty we made a strategic decision several months ago that we were going to double down on the New York market. We had been operating in New York via contract manufacturing partnership where someone else was making our rosin for us and marketing it as, we're marketing as Jetty like many brands do. We've acquired a license. We leased a facility. We are in the process of standing up our own solventless extraction because there is a gap in the market in New York. Currently, there are very, very few solventless rosin vape products on the market that are true rosin, like 100%, and aren't cut with something else. And New York bartenders and consumers know that. So there's like a time-sensitive opportunity for Jetty to become the number one selling rosin brand in New York, just as we are in California, Colorado. But we made that strategic decision as a company to kind of go all in on New York because of this moment right now where we could be the brand that converts people from distillate. There's a fair degree of live resin. MFNY is known for their live resin. They're a super strong brand in the market. But we believe that Jetty can own that live rosin number one top spot. And so we are in a process right now of orienting our company towards New York. I just hired a field marketing manager on my team. I just hired a creative director on my team who are both based in New York. And so we're not only growing in that market, but we're also growing like people and marketing headcount and, creatives who live and breathe New York and New York cannabis so that we can be authentically in the market and not just like an out-of-state brand that happens to operate or happens to sell there.
Yeah, I used to help brands expand into new states via licensing agreements, and through that, and this was before Surfside, right? And so through that process, what I learned was that like brands are just hamstrung if they don't own their own facility and their own supply chain. And I think if we look at some of the other multi-state brands that are in the same echelon as Jetty, some that have had a lot of struggle scaling are the ones that didn't own their licenses and ended up being hamstrung by the partners, needing to pull out, needing to switch partners in the middle of their growth phase in that state. And so I'm really happy to hear that Jetty has their own license and then therefore is able to control your own fate in the way that you interact with customers because you're putting out the products that you're growing for them, marketing the products that you fully believe in, as opposed to going out into the market and trying to find the things that match your brand. You're building them yourself, which allows you to be more authentic.
Yeah. And then the other point that I would just add to that is that we're a manufacturer, we're a processor, we're not a cultivator, but we do have really strong cultivation partners in our markets who align with us from a values perspective and also from a clean cannabis perspective. So like in California, our cultivation partner, Coastal Sun Farms, is also OCal, comparable to organic certified. We're both eco certified, which is a certification for the cleanliness and kind of testing for pesticides in our oils. And so within New York as well, we are also building a network of sourcing partners that share those values. And that's something that by having our own manufacturing, our own processing, we can also have greater control over our supply chain, which all of that goes into how we deliver the quality product to consumers at the right price.
Great. That's really awesome to hear. We're getting near the end here. One thing I did want to make sure we touched on, and you mentioned it earlier, is that you've been using Surfside's platform. I know that you're doing a test in New York and California on our commerce media platform. So that's serving ads in people's e-commerce menus to ensure you're meeting people while they're shopping and deciding what they want to buy and putting Jetty front and center in front of in front of their faces when you're doing that. You've been in live in New York and California for a couple months now. Like, how do you view this investment as supporting your key retailers as you test it out right now? And like, what's the difference between the tests in New York and California? I
Yeah.
think you touched on
Well,
it a little, but just getting a
yeah.
little more specific.
So I think since in New York we are still like trying to get on shelves, and so in New York
Yeah.
I think like our working with Surfside drives value both in the sell through of what happens as a result of ad units, but also in showing these accounts that Jetty is a brand that is investing in driving sell through. So like even when we go to pitch a new account, we can talk about the work that we are doing with a platform like with Surfside as like a differentiator as to why they should carry like our brand over another brand. Like what else are they going to do for going to do for you? So there's like a qualitative benefit and like relationship building benefit with accounts where in a market that maybe is newer for us, whereas in California where we're not trying to convince a retailer to carry us, we want to demonstrate to them, I guess we want to demonstrate to them that I think maybe our bar is slightly higher on measuring ROI, or maybe much higher on measuring ROI in a more mature market like California, because this is not like the key thing that's, working with Surfside or not is not a maybe key selling point in our ability to stay on that retailer's shelf. They're going to be more concerned with like, what's your pricing, what's your demo schedule, et cetera. So I think in New York, just because these are like, we can bring to them almost like a playbook of like, here's what we've been doing in these more mature markets. We will be applying this to your market. And so like, take a chance on us on your shelf, give us 3 months. We're going to work on this program. And you can see at the end of that, where we've netted out. So, I think that, like I said, really wholesale relationship building. Because of that, like I've taken, our sales teams in these markets, through a deep dive on Surfside so that they're equipped to talk this with their accounts as they're doing their calls.
Yeah, it's extremely important that we have strong relationships with your sales team when we're running these types of programs, because if they're not communicating directly with the buyer on all the types of value that they're providing and the ways that they're helping support sell through, then the campaign, the investment, you're not really getting 100% of the value out of the investment that you're making. So really also glad to have seen how involved your team is on that front. So thank you for that, making sure everyone's up to speed. So like just wrapping up here, like what lies ahead for Jetty, and then also just like your thoughts on where the industry is going. Is Jetty moving into, like starting with Jetty, are you guys looking at more states or new product lines or anything like that?
So with my current company, with Jetty, we're not looking at new states right now. We are going to be really, really focused on
Right.
California, Colorado, and New York. We have had record sales growth, like each of the last like 4 months, I think, or 5 months since I've been here, where each month has been our highest sales month in company history. In markets we are operating in like 3 of the most challenging markets, in the country. And so I would say, as I started, like I think this real discipline in the company to not try to expand to new markets, but like say we're going to kind of milk these markets for all we've got. I think I know that's our strategy. We are known for vape. So in California, we are currently leaning into a campaign right now on our pre-rolls. We've got solventless and live resin and distillate infused pre-rolls. Our solventless pre-rolls are actually my favorite product in our portfolio, but our pre-rolls don't sell as well as our vapes do. And to be honest, like for no good reason. So I think translating our success in vape to these other categories. And then also we have rosin concentrate, dabbable rosin in California. We also have a partnership with Dablicator for concentrates. And as we stand up this New York facility, we're going to be rolling out an expanded product line in New York that will include pre-rolls, that will include dabbable rosin. So it's really creating like a consistent portfolio across these three markets. And I would say, like, while we're known for solventless, our distillate products still, because of their price point, and there is a consumer for those products, still do bring in significant revenue for us, for the company. So focusing on three markets, but going deep, going broader, I think, in portfolio. And then I would say, just kind of like for the industry as a whole, and for Jetty too, there continues to, I think, just continues to be like an opportunity for education on buying legal weed versus non-legal weed, for helping consumers to understand the difference between licensed THC versus hemp-derived cannabis, and the traditional market. And I think, and truly believe that the legal license industry, being known for having the cleanest, most tested, most trustworthy products, is going to be how we continue to have a market and have a legal market, and creating that willingness to pay. Because if you're going to pay the taxes, if you're going to go into a dispensary, you're going to pay those taxes. You got to know that you're getting something you can't get elsewhere. And so I think we have an opportunity, really, as an industry, to join forces and do more education around, like, why buy legal, driving people to dispensaries to buy any legal weed product, not just our own brand.
Yeah. Yeah, we're running into a lot of that right now, right? People are finally starting to see cannabis as an alternative to pharmaceuticals, no matter where you lie on the political spectrum. I think some of the comments that have been made recently by our president have actually been positive for the industry over the last week or so. We've obviously seen it reflected in some of the public markets and the stock prices of publicly traded companies. So it's exciting to see people actually start to have that trust in the product, where it's being reflected at the highest levels of government. I'm just hoping that they stop saying it's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when, right? Like, why can't when be now? So I'm just hoping that sooner rather than later, we start to see some safe banking implemented, so that people get full access across state lines. That would be really awesome. And then we'll be able to buy Jetty or order Jetty from anywhere in the country.
Yeah, that would be amazing. Someday.
So I think that's it. Did you have anything else that you wanted to add before we close up here?
I don't think so. There's one question that you had for me that we didn't touch upon, and it was
What
about.
was it? I'm sorry if I missed
No,
it.
it's fine. It was about just like women in cannabis, and like.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
No, it's
I
fine.
skipped right over one of the most important things, everyone.
I was just gonna say.
Annie's been a part of the women in cannabis movement for many years now, and I wanted to make sure that I asked her about that as well.
It's okay. I was just going to note that, like, as a marketer, having been through multiple companies and like ups and downs, and marketing oftentimes is the first thing to get cut. Like, it is women in this industry that I've met through marketing roles, and the networks that I've built with them, that has been one of the things that has kept me sane, and also been a huge asset to me as I enter new organizations, and can bring in people that I've worked with in my past. But there is, I think, there's the strength of community, whether gender agnostic, all the people who work in cannabis. There is the sense that we're all kind of in this together, and I feel like this is one of the most it is the most collaborative industry I've ever worked in. But I will say that I think some of the informal networking and formal networking and relationships that I've built with other women in cannabis have really helped me to drive value for the brands I've worked on, because it's helped me to know, like, who's a good, web developer to call, who's a good freelancer, what do you think of this ad platform? There's a lot of just kind of advice that we give each other. And so I'm really grateful for that support.
Yes. And please, everyone, reach out to Annie to talk more about her network of women in cannabis. I know that they're a very powerful group of people. And you were also a founder of the CMC as well, the Cannabis.
I was a founding board member. I was not I will say I was a founding member of the Cannabis Media Council, which, to my earlier point about like the goal and mission of the Cannabis Media Council has been to create a unified like mouthpiece for the industry to normalize cannabis as a whole. So this idea that like we are all part of building the brand of legal weed. And
Yeah.
like no one brand is, responsible, but rising tide lifts all boats. And that's been really rewarding to be a part of. Challenging again, funding wise, because we've dealt, just you have a bunch of volunteers, people have limited time and resources. I'm kind of had to take a step back in that organization when I took this Jetty job, just due to my own bandwidth. But I continue to be really proud of the work that organization is doing to normalize and destigmatize.
No, I mean, when you guys popped up, and that's a large, like almost entirely female-led organization as well. But when you guys popped up, I remember us sitting down and being like, we need to be a part of this organization. This is like the IAB for cannabis, and we need to make sure that we're participating and help supporting. So yeah, thank you for creating that platform and pushing along the industry in ways that not everyone has been willing to do as much as you and your network have. So
Yeah.
thank you.
All right. Well, thanks so
All
much,
right,
Travis.
Andy.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll see you in New York next week.
Yeah, I'll see you there.
Yep,
Bye.
bye.